Right now, your brain is keeping count. It knows exactly how many hours you have been awake. And somewhere deep inside your hypothalamus, a chemical timer is ticking, building up a molecule called adenosine with every passing minute. And that molecule has one simple job: tell you to shut down and sleep. But what happens if you refuse? Not for one rough night, not for a groggy Monday morning, but for an entire week, 7 full days, 168 straight hours of forcing your brain to stay switched on? The answer is one of the most disturbing biological sequences ever documented, because after 7 days without sleep, your brain does not simply get tired. It begins to dismantle itself piece by piece, function by function, in a specific and terrifyingly predictable order. Let us start the clock. Hour 0. And you have just woken up from a full night of rest, and right now, everything is working perfectly. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decisions and impulse control, is fully charged. Your hippocampus, the memory center, is freshly cleared and ready to encode new information. Your amygdala, the emotional alarm system, is calm and properly regulated. Cortisol sits at its natural morning peak, giving you alertness without anxiety. You feel sharp, you feel normal, you feel human. Remember that feeling, because you will not experience it again for the next 7 days. By hour 16, the first shift begins. Adenosine has been piling up in your brain all day, docking onto receptors and gradually slowing neural firing speed. Your body expects sleep now, your core temperature drops slightly, melatonin starts rising, and your eyelids grow heavy. This is called sleep pressure, and it is not a polite suggestion, it is a biological command. But you push through, you drink coffee, you blast bright lights into your eyes, you force yourself to stay vertical, and for a while it seems to work. But your brain has already started keeping score. Hour 24, 1 full day awake, and you have now entered the zone that scientists compare to being legally drunk. Your reaction time has slowed by nearly 50%. Your ability to form new memories is dropping fast because your hippocampus has not been cleaned out. Imagine a whiteboard that nobody has erased in 24 hours. You can still write on it, but everything is smudged and layered on top of old notes. Your emotional regulation begins to slip. Small annoyances feel like major provocations. And you might snap at someone for no real reason because your amygdala is starting to fire without the prefrontal cortex holding it in check. Your body is now flooding itself with cortisol and adrenaline to keep you upright, essentially treating your own decision to stay awake as a low-grade emergency. But here is the strange part. You do not feel that bad yet. You feel tired, sure, but you can still talk, still think, still convince yourself that this is manageable. That confidence is a trap, because what comes next is where things start to get genuinely disturbing. Hour 36, and your brain begins doing something it has never done while you were conscious. It starts having microsleeps. These are involuntary blackouts lasting 1 to 30 seconds, where entire sections of your brain simply switch off without your permission. Your eyes might still be open. You might still be standing up, but parts of your cortex have gone dark. You will not remember these episodes. You will not even know they happened, and that is what makes them so dangerous. People who have been awake for 36 hours have been recorded driving cars during microsleeps, their eyes open, their hands on the wheel, but functionally unconscious. Your brain has essentially decided that if you will not give it sleep voluntarily, it will start stealing it in fragments. By hour 48, 2 full days, the deterioration becomes visible to anyone around you. Your speech starts slurring, not because your mouth is broken, but because the motor coordination areas of your brain are losing synchronization. You might slur a word, forget a sentence halfway through, start a thought, and completely lose where it was going. Your hands might tremble slightly, not from caffeine, but from your nervous system struggling to maintain fine motor control without the neural maintenance that sleep provides. Your immune system has now measurably weakened. Natural killer cells, the ones that hunt down viruses and abnormal cells, have dropped by roughly 70% in number. Your body temperature regulation starts to malfunction. You might feel randomly cold or randomly hot for no environmental reason. And the microsleeps are getting longer and more frequent, sometimes hitting 10 or 15 seconds, entire moments of your life just vanishing without a trace. Hour 60, and now we cross into territory that most researchers consider genuinely dangerous. This is where hallucinations begin. Not metaphorical, not exaggeration, actual perceptual hallucinations. Your visual cortex, desperate for the dream state processing it has been denied, starts generating images on its own and projecting them into your waking reality. People at 60 hours have reported seeing shadows moving in their peripheral vision, insects crawling on surfaces that are perfectly clean, faces forming in random patterns on walls and ceilings. Your brain is essentially trying to dream while you are still awake, forcing dream content through your conscious perception because it has no other way to process the sensory backlog. This is not madness. This is neurology. Your visual processing pipeline is overflowing and it has started leaking. Hour 72, 3 full days, and the psychological collapse accelerates dramatically. Yet your ability to distinguish between what is real and what your brain is fabricating becomes unreliable. The hallucinations are no longer just peripheral shadows, they might include full auditory components, hearing your name called when nobody spoke, hearing music from another room that does not exist, hearing knocking or tapping sounds from inside the walls. Paranoia begins to set in, not as a personality flaw, but as a neurological inevitability. Your amygdala is now in a state of chronic hyperactivation, firing threat signals constantly. And your prefrontal cortex, the rational judge, is too exhausted to overrule it. You start to suspect things, you feel watched, you sense hostility in neutral faces, you interpret innocent comments as veiled attacks. That you are not going crazy in the colloquial sense. Your threat detection system is malfunctioning because it has not been recalibrated by sleep in 72 hours. This is the point where most voluntary sleep deprivation experiments are stopped, because continuing beyond this line risks genuine psychiatric episodes. But the human record goes much further. Hour 96, 4 full days, and cognition is now severely fractured. Your working memory, the ability to hold information in your mind for even a few seconds, is nearly gone. Someone might tell you their name, and you will forget it before they finish the sentence. Complex thought becomes almost impossible. Tasks like basic arithmetic, following a set of instructions, or even making a simple decision feel overwhelming because your brain cannot hold enough variables simultaneously to process them. Your emotional state has become unpredictable and extreme, swinging between flat affect where you feel absolutely nothing and sudden intense waves of despair or terror for no identifiable reason. The hallucinations have likely become more elaborate, possibly including tactile sensations. Feeling things touching your skin that are not there, sensing vibrations in the floor, perceiving temperature changes that are not happening. Your body at this point is in a state of systemic stress response. Heart rate elevated, blood pressure up, inflammatory markers spiking, insulin sensitivity disrupted. You are not just tired anymore. You are experiencing a full-body system failure operating in slow motion. New hour 120, 5 days, and we enter the zone that researchers describe with words like psychosis, adjacent, and cognitive disintegration. The boundary between waking and dreaming has essentially dissolved. You may experience waking dreams, fully formed narrative hallucinations that you cannot distinguish from reality. A person at 5 days without sleep might have a conversation with someone who is not in the room, react to events that are not occurring, or become convinced of elaborate scenarios that have no basis in reality. And they will defend these beliefs with absolute conviction because their reality testing mechanism has shut down. The prefrontal cortex, your brain's fact-checker, has effectively gone offline. Whatever your amygdala and your sensory cortex generate, you now believe without question. Physically, and your body is showing signs of acute stress, tremors in the hands and legs, difficulty walking in a straight line, nausea without any digestive cause, and a strange phenomenon where your pain threshold drops dramatically, meaning everything hurts more than it should. Light feels too bright, sounds feel too loud, even the texture of clothing against skin can feel abrasive and overwhelming. Or 144, 6 full days, and you have entered a state that sleep scientists call sleep deprivation psychosis. This is not a metaphor. This is a clinical condition characterized by a complete inability to distinguish hallucination from reality, severe cognitive fragmentation, emotional volatility ranging from catatonic stillness to uncontrollable weeping, and physical deterioration including loss of coordination. Involuntary eye movements called nystagmus, and a characteristic facial expression that researchers have noted in multiple studies. A flat, vacant, thousand-yard stare combined with frequent confused blinking as the brain desperately tries to reconcile what it is seeing with what it knows should be there. At this stage, your brain is cannibalizing itself in a very literal sense. A process called astrocytic phagocytosis has been observed in animal studies at this level of deprivation, where the brain's cleaning cells, the astrocytes, begin destroying healthy synapses because the normal waste clearance system that operates during sleep has been offline for so long that the brain starts aggressively dismantling its own connections to try and clear the toxic buildup. You are not just losing function, like your brain is physically eating its own wiring. And then, hour 168, 7 days, the full week. If you have somehow reached this point, you are barely recognizable as a functional human being. Speech may be reduced to fragments or mumbling. Motor coordination has deteriorated to the point where walking requires concentration and support. Hallucinations are constant and indistinguishable from reality. Emotional responses are either absent or wildly inappropriate. Your body's stress systems have been running at maximum for so long that cortisol levels are beginning to cause measurable harm to your cardiovascular system, your immune function is critically suppressed, and your metabolic rate has become erratic. The longest scientifically documented case of intentional sleep deprivation is Randy Gardner, a 17-year-old who stayed awake for 11 days in 1964. By the end, he was experiencing severe cognitive dysfunction, fragmented speech, and paranoid episodes, but remarkably, he recovered after sleeping for about 14 hours. His brain did not suffer permanent documented damage, which tells us something extraordinary. Even after this level of abuse, the human brain desperately wants to repair itself, and given the chance, it will. But there is a darker side to this story. In certain rare medical conditions, particularly fatal familial insomnia, a prion disease that destroys the thalamus and eliminates the brain's ability to sleep entirely, the outcome is not recovery. It is a slow, irreversible descent through every stage we just described over the course of months, ending in death. Because here's the final truth that sleep science has been circling for decades. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is not your brain shutting down. Sleep is the single most complex maintenance operation in all of biology. A precisely choreographed sequence of neural cleanup, memory consolidation, emotional recalibration, immune system repair, hormonal rebalancing, and synaptic pruning that keeps you sane, keeps you healthy, and keeps you alive. Every stage of what we just walked through, the slurred speech, the hallucinations, the paranoia, the psychosis, the physical breakdown, none of that happened because your body got tired. All of it happened because your brain was denied the one process it cannot survive without. You do not sleep because you are tired. You sleep because without it, your brain will destroy itself trying to stay awake.